Truck owners across the country are furious because a rumored 2026 ban list has exploded out of nowhere, and 7 of America's most trusted pickups are suddenly being dragged into it.
It's uncommon right now to find somebody who has paid maybe $60,000 or $65,000 for a very high-end pickup truck. Well, even the average pickup truck now is going to be crossing over that $50,000 barrier.
No announcement, no hearing, no warning, just leaked documents, quiet agency meetings, and a wave of panic hitting everyday drivers who depend on their trucks for work, family, and survival. And whether you tow on weekends, commute 50 miles a day, or live in a rural town with no backup vehicle, this matters. Because if even part of this rumor turns out to be true, your registration, your resale value, and your ability to legally operate your truck could all be on the line. So who pushed this through in the shadows? Which 7 trucks are supposedly targeted? And could your truck be next? Ford Ranger. Rising 2026 safety revisions put this older mid-size workhorse in the spotlight, exposing design limits that were never meant to face the next wave of federal impact standards. The Ford Ranger has always carried a special place in American truck culture, filling the space between compact practicality and full-size muscle. When it returned to the United States market after its earlier retirement, drivers immediately embraced it as a dependable alternative to larger and more expensive trucks. It offered the familiarity of Ford engineering, the comfort of a modern interior, and the usefulness expected from a model with decades of heritage. Yet the version sold from 2019 through 2023 relied on a global platform that originally predated the most recent structural and pedestrian impact guidelines that federal regulators will begin enforcing in 2026. Those guidelines emphasize crumple zone behavior, advanced hood geometry, exterior energy management, and revised crash mitigation layouts aimed at reducing both occupant and bystander harm. Engineering teams have concluded that trucks built on the older platform would require extensive structural modification to meet those upcoming conditions, and older models already on the road cannot be economically retrofitted. That creates a situation where a dependable, affordable, and well-liked truck suddenly faces regulatory pressure far beyond what consumers expected. Drivers value the Ranger because it delivers genuine capability without the oversized footprint of heavier trucks. The 2.3-liter turbocharged engine brought strong mid-range torque, and the truck's manageable dimensions offered welcome versatility in dense cities, tight job sites, and narrow rural routes. Contractors embraced it for hauling tools and supplies. Families adopted it as an all-purpose machine for weekend projects and long-distance travel. The Ranger represented a rare combination of efficiency, practicality, and authentic truck personality. However, the upcoming shift in federal compliance categories means that earlier engineering choices made long before these rules existed now place the older Ranger lineup in a vulnerable position. American drivers who appreciated its reliability and simplicity may soon see it phased out of large fleet purchases, stricter municipal requirements, and certain government-regulated operational zones. These changes do not erase the Ranger's strengths, but they do highlight how evolving standards can reshape the fate of even a popular, well-established pickup. Across the broader truck landscape, the situation signals a transition toward newer designs, with heavier emphasis on structural adaptability, modular safety components, and compatibility with emerging pedestrian impact modeling. The Ranger's earlier platform was solid, proven, and widely trusted, but it was created during a time when the regulatory environment looked very different. What once appeared perfectly adequate now falls behind a rising threshold, and this shift reflects the rapid pace of modern automotive oversight. For longtime Ranger fans, this development may feel abrupt, especially because the truck continues to perform well in daily use. Its durability is not in question. The challenge comes from revised definitions of compliance that prioritize specific impact metrics rather than traditional measures of toughness or reliability. As those standards tighten, the Ranger's earlier generation becomes a symbol of how the truck market is evolving faster than many expected. And if the Ranger's situation sounds surprising, the next entry reveals how shifting rules can pressure an even broader slice of America's pickup-owning public. Chevrolet Colorado 2.5 gas. Growing emissions and durability expectations for 2026 draw attention to the simplest Colorado engine option, pushing its aging architecture into a tightening regulatory corner. The Chevrolet Colorado, equipped with the 2.5-liter gasoline engine, earned a loyal following, by offering an accessible entry point into the world of mid-sized trucks. When it arrived as part of Chevrolet's revitalized strategy to re-enter the segment, it immediately appealed to buyers who needed genuine truck capability without the financial weight of a full-size model. The engine delivered adequate power for daily hauling, light towing, and weekend projects, and its relatively simple construction made it reliable for work crews, small business owners, and young drivers purchasing their first truck. Its affordability and practicality kept it visible on highways, construction sites, and suburban neighborhoods throughout its production run. Yet despite its strengths, the engine belongs to an era before the current wave of emissions-focused engineering, and the emerging 2026 standards raise questions about long-term compliance. These rules emphasize improved combustion management, more advanced catalytic systems, and enhanced onboard diagnostics capable of tracking emissions behavior under a wider range of operating conditions. The older design inside the 2.5-liter Colorado powertrain was never engineered for those heightened thresholds, and retrofitting such technology is rarely feasible without reworking the engine architecture itself. That places these particular Colorado models in a challenging position as regulators increasingly pressure manufacturers to reduce emission signatures across every trim and engine configuration. Still, the truck's appeal remains undeniable. Drivers appreciated its balanced ride quality, comfortable cabin, and respectable payload rating. It served as a dependable companion for everything from daily commuting to long road trips, and many owners saw it as a trustworthy utility partner that delivered far more value than its modest price tag suggested. The simplicity of its naturally aspirated design also meant fewer complications for owners who preferred straightforward maintenance schedules and predictable repair costs. However, as new guidelines shift expectations for how engines must manage pollutants over extended lifespans, the older Colorado configurations highlight the tension between buyer satisfaction and regulatory progression. This transition illustrates how a truck that once seemed perfectly positioned for the modern market can suddenly face compliance issues, driven not by performance shortcomings, but by evolving environmental policies. Across the industry, similar engines are encountering the same pressure. Automakers are preparing for a landscape dominated by turbocharged small displacement units, hybrid assistance systems, and more stringent monitoring of combustion efficiency. The traditional approach that made the 2.5-liter Colorado engine affordable and durable now stands at odds with a regulatory climate focused on reducing cumulative emissions from every mile driven. As manufacturers shift toward cleaner platforms, the earlier Colorado models become symbols of an outgoing era trusted by owners, but increasingly mismatched with future demands. While the truck's abilities remain intact, its alignment with upcoming emissions expectations is uncertain. Some owners worry about what comes next very soon, and if that shift seems significant, the next entry reveals how evolving standards can reshape the future of another widely trusted pickup. Before we move into the trucks facing even tougher restrictions, take a moment to like this video, subscribe for the rest of this countdown, and share your thoughts below. Your engagement helps push this information to drivers who have no idea what is coming. Ram 1500 Classic, a surge of stricter 2026 structural, safety, and pedestrian impact requirements is converging directly on the long-running Ram 1500 Classic, placing its older frame design under mounting pressure and redefining how this budget-friendly full-size pickup will fit into the modern regulatory landscape. The Ram 1500 Classic occupies a distinctive place in American truck culture because it represents the continuation of a beloved generation long after its successor took center stage. When the newer Ram platform arrived with advanced materials, refined aerodynamics, and updated safety engineering, Stellantis made the unusual decision to keep the older architecture in production. That move created one of the most accessible entry points into the full-size truck market, at a time when prices across the segment were climbing rapidly. Families, contractors, rural drivers, and first-time truck owners gravitated toward the Classic because it offered genuine capability at a cost far below other modern half-ton alternatives. Its familiar shape, proven suspension layout, and time-tested interior made it a dependable option for those who valued traditional truck strengths over the newest technology. This value helped the truck maintain sales among buyers who prioritized proven reliability over emerging technologies. However, the very qualities that preserved the truck's affordability and charm are now the reason it faces mounting regulatory conflicts. The 2026 standards emphasize enhanced crumple zone geometry, improved multi-angle collision absorption, and redesigned hood structures meant to reduce harm in pedestrian impacts. The Classic's underlying blueprint was conceived long before these priorities shaped federal policy. While the truck performs reliably in its intended roles, its structural layout does not provide the modular adaptability necessary to meet the newer requirements without major redesign. Retrofitting large structural elements is neither economically feasible nor mechanically practical for existing trucks, placing the older platform at odds with the direction safety engineers and regulators are moving. Yet, the Classic remains admired by owners who appreciate its sturdy road feel, straightforward maintenance, and the availability of powerful V8 engines that deliver familiar towing strength. Many owners prefer its mechanical honesty over the increasingly software-driven nature of modern pickups. Its cabin, though simpler than later models, holds up well to years of daily use, and its driving dynamics reflect an era when trucks were defined more by toughness than by electronic assistance. Still, as the regulatory climate evolves, even loyal drivers acknowledge the challenges ahead. The Classic symbolizes a moment when manufacturers balanced rising costs with customer demand for affordability, but its design roots cannot keep pace with the escalating expectations governing structural safety performance. Across the rest of the industry, manufacturers are adapting by investing heavily in next-generation crash structures, advanced sensor integration, and electronically coordinated safety systems. Against that backdrop, the Ram 1500 Classic stands as a reminder of how quickly standards change and how legacy platforms can struggle to remain compliant. Its strengths have not disappeared, but its compatibility with future requirements grows increasingly limited as the automotive environment marches forward. And if a long-trusted platform can face disruption from shifting impact requirements, the next entry reveals how changing expectations can pressure even more widely adopted full-size pickups. Nissan Frontier. Long-term reliability and emissions evaluations, scheduled for 2026, present hurdles for this famously old-school platform, revealing how its dated engineering struggles against modern standards. The Nissan Frontier has always stood apart from other mid-size pickup trucks because it represented an unbroken connection to old-school utility. For more than a decade, the platform remained essentially unchanged, giving buyers a straightforward, reliable, mechanically honest machine that never tried to lure them with excessive electronics or unnecessary luxury. That consistency built an incredibly loyal audience. Tradespeople trusted it because it started every morning without complaint. Rural drivers valued its rugged frame, hydraulic steering, and simple suspension layout. Families appreciated its practical size and the ability to handle daily commutes as confidently as weekend hauling tasks. The Frontier became one of the few remaining trucks that still felt like a truck in the traditional sense, emphasizing durability over refinement and mechanical simplicity over modern complexity. Yet the very qualities that made it a legend have become the sources of regulatory friction as federal requirements shift toward more advanced and emissions-conscious engineering. The upcoming 2026 standards emphasize extended component longevity, improved emissions stability over the entire life cycle of the vehicle, and enhanced crash structures that absorb impacts differently than the frameworks designed nearly 2 decades ago. The older Frontier models were created during a period when long-term emissions consistency and real-world durability tracking were not measured with the same scrutiny that regulators now demand. The naturally aspirated engines, while dependable, lack the advanced monitoring systems that newer guidelines expect. Transmission components, though widely respected by owners, were developed long before current durability testing protocols that analyze stress patterns over hundreds of thousands of miles. Even the body structure, beloved for its toughness, predates the contemporary requirements for both pedestrian impact control and more complex multi-angle crash energy redistribution. None of these shortcomings diminish the real-world usefulness of the truck, but they do place it out of alignment with upcoming rules that focus heavily on life cycle data, emissions accuracy, and structural adaptability. Despite this regulatory pressure, the Frontier's reputation among owners remains remarkably strong. Drivers often praise it for surviving demanding workloads without the chronic issues that sometimes plague more technologically ambitious competitors. Its straightforward powertrain design means maintenance is predictable, affordable, and often manageable with basic tools. The interior, though simple, is known for holding up well over years of demanding use. Owners frequently describe it as a partner, rather than merely a vehicle. Yet, as the regulatory baseline moves forward, the older Frontier models begin to symbolize an era that is coming to an end. The truck still performs admirably, but performance is no longer the only metric that determines long-term viability in an increasingly regulated environment. The shift reflects how automotive standards evolve faster than the mechanical traditions that once defined dependable pickup ownership, pushing further changes into the marketplace. And if these pressures seem significant for a model admired for its toughness, the next entry shows how shifting expectations can challenge more modernized trucks. If you want the full breakdown on every model affected before 2026, make sure you subscribe right now. The next trucks on this list will shock even seasoned owners, and you should not miss what is revealed next in this investigation. Chevrolet Silverado 1500 E-Assist Hybrid. The early mild hybrid system inside this Silverado faces a new era of electrification rules in 2026, spotlighting limitations baked into its first-generation battery and software design. The Chevrolet Silverado 1500 E-Assist Hybrid occupies a fascinating place in modern truck history, because it represented one of the earliest attempts by a major American manufacturer to blend traditional V8 strength with electric assistance. When Chevrolet introduced the E-Assist system, the idea was straightforward: give full-size truck buyers a more efficient option without asking them to surrender the characteristic power, sound, and towing confidence that define the Silverado nameplate. The result was a mild hybrid design that added a compact electric motor, a lithium-ion battery pack, and regenerative braking capability. For many drivers, this combination delivered impressive real-world fuel savings without altering how the truck behaved during heavy work. Contractors appreciated that the truck still felt like a genuine half-ton. Families welcomed the smoother acceleration offered by the electric assist. Commuters valued improved efficiency during long highway drives. Although the E-Assist Hybrid was never produced in enormous numbers, its reputation among owners remained strong. However, the engineering choices that made the E-Assist Hybrid appealing in its time are now the source of difficulty as new federal standards approach. The upcoming 2026 regulations require hybrid and electrified vehicles to demonstrate higher levels of thermal stability, expanded diagnostic, reporting, and battery durability across longer mileage spans than the early E-Assist systems were designed to provide. The original battery modules offered respectable performance for their era, yet they fall short of the forthcoming test cycles that measure degradation under repeated high-temperature stress and continuous load conditions. Additionally, the early power management software cannot meet the granular monitoring expectations that regulators now apply to hybrid systems. Updating the technology inside existing trucks would require a complete redesign of core electrical components, and the cost of such an overhaul exceeds the practical value of the vehicle for most owners. With these factors combined, the E-Assist Hybrid finds itself at the intersection of changing policy, aging hardware, and a marketplace shifting rapidly toward more advanced electrified platforms. Even as regulatory pressure builds, many owners maintain a strong appreciation for the truck. The Silverado 1500 E-Assist Hybrid delivers a driving experience that blends traditional torque with subtle electric refinement. Its interior remains comfortable, its chassis capable, and its work ethic unmistakably American. Yet the broader industry is evolving beyond the early mild hybrid philosophy. Automakers are turning to fully integrated hybrid architectures, high-efficiency turbocharged engines, and battery systems designed for extended service life under newly defined performance thresholds. In this environment, the E-Assist Hybrid stands as a transitional chapter, a promising early step toward electrification, but one that no longer aligns with the analytical rigor applied to modern hybrids. What once felt innovative now appears dated, not because the truck failed its mission, but because the standards surrounding it have changed so dramatically and so quickly. And if these technological pressures seem significant, The next entry demonstrates how even stronger forces are reshaping expectations for another widely adopted American pickup, GMC Canyon 2.8 Duramax Diesel. Upcoming diesel-focused regulations centered on emissions, stability, and long-cycle monitoring push this compact Duramax into challenging territory that its earlier hardware was never created to handle. The GMC Canyon, equipped with the 2.8-liter Duramax diesel engine, carved out a loyal following among drivers who wanted full-size capability inside a mid-size package. When it launched, the engine offered something rare in the mid-size segment: genuine diesel torque, long-distance fuel efficiency, and the kind of low-end pulling power that made towing small campers, utility trailers, and work equipment feel easy and controlled. Buyers who did not want the size or cost of a heavy-duty truck saw the Canyon Duramax as the perfect compromise, blending a manageable footprint with impressive capability. It became a favorite among adventurers, light-duty contractors, and commuters who traveled long stretches of highway. However, the landscape surrounding diesel technology has changed dramatically, and the upcoming 2026 regulatory framework introduces a new set of expectations that the earlier 2.8-liter Duramax architecture struggles to meet. These updated standards emphasize several demanding requirements: tighter nitrogen oxide control, more exhaustive onboard diagnostic reporting, higher durability thresholds for emissions-related components, and stricter testing cycles designed to mimic real-world driving rather than controlled laboratory conditions. While the 2.8-liter Duramax diesel engine performs well in many real-world scenarios, its original design predates the latest emission strategies now being integrated into newer diesel and hybrid platforms. Specifically, the earlier after-treatment systems were engineered around mid-2015 requirements, not the expanded multi-stage monitoring that regulators will enforce in 2026. Updating those systems in existing trucks is not straightforward. The selective catalytic reduction unit, diesel particulate filter, sensors, and related thermal management hardware would need substantial redesign to comply with the new thresholds. Retrofitting them would require replacing major components that were never intended for modular upgrades, and the cost of these conversions far exceeds what many owners would consider reasonable. Still, the value of the Canyon Duramax remains undeniable. Drivers praise its long-range economy, stable towing manners, and comfortable cabin layout. The engine's low-end torque allows for confident maneuvering in tough environments, whether navigating mountain passes or hauling payloads across rugged backroads. Many owners purchased the truck specifically because it offered diesel practicality without the intimidating size of a heavy-duty model. Yet the regulatory shift places the earlier trucks in an uncomfortable position. They are not unreliable, nor are they incapable. Instead, they serve as examples of how quickly environmental standards can evolve, and how that evolution affects engines designed during a different regulatory era. As expectations for emissions longevity rise, even well-loved diesel workhorses face challenges that never existed when their engineering was originally conceived. Across the broader pickup market, manufacturers are gradually transitioning away from smaller diesel offerings, replacing them with turbocharged gasoline engines, hybrid systems, or more advanced diesel platforms built to withstand extended emissions compliance demands. The Canyon Duramax stands at the crossroads of this transition. It represents a successful chapter in diesel innovation, yet it also reflects the limitations of older systems in a marketplace driven increasingly by environmental accountability and long-term monitoring. While the truck continues to serve its owners faithfully, its compatibility with future regulatory conditions remains uncertain. And if these tightening standards sound demanding for diesel technology, the next entry demonstrates how even more sweeping changes are reshaping expectations for another cornerstone of American pickup culture: Ford F-150 EcoBoost Gen 1 models. Intense durability and heat management thresholds arriving in 2026 shine a bright light on the earliest EcoBoost architecture, exposing weaknesses that modern turbo systems no longer face. The Ford F-150 has dominated the American truck landscape for decades, but the introduction of the first-generation EcoBoost engine marked one of the most dramatic shifts in its long history. When Ford unveiled the twin turbocharged V6 concept for a full-size pickup, many drivers were skeptical that a smaller displacement engine could genuinely replace a traditional V8. Yet, The EcoBoost quickly proved itself with impressive torque delivery, confident towing characteristics, and fuel efficiency that surpassed expectations for its time. The earliest models offered strong acceleration, smooth highway manners, and a balance of power and economy that reshaped what drivers believed a half-ton pickup could be. It became especially popular among families and contractors who wanted full-size utility without accepting the fuel costs associated with older, naturally aspirated engines. However, the earliest EcoBoost designs were engineered before the regulatory environment began demanding detailed monitoring of heat cycles, high-load operation behavior, and hard-use consistency over extended mileage. As expectations shift, the earliest EcoBoost engines face challenges rooted in their foundational design. The upcoming 2026 durability standards evaluate engines under more intense thermal cycles, extended towing simulations, and high-temperature stress tests that place enormous demands on turbocharged components. The early EcoBoost layout lacks several refinements that later generations incorporated, such as enhanced cooling pathways, upgraded turbine materials, and more sophisticated knock control mapping. The intercooler design from those years, while effective under most conditions, can experience condensation accumulation during certain weather patterns, influencing throttle response. Although these issues seldom affect routine driving, regulatory testing pushes engines to their limits, highlighting engineering weaknesses that did not originally appear in consumer use. Updating early EcoBoost systems to align with these requirements is impractical, because it would require installing new turbos, redesigned intercoolers, additional sensors, and revised engine management software. Even with these regulatory obstacles, drivers continue to value the first-generation EcoBoost for its dependable power and practical capability. Owners frequently note that the truck handles heavy loads with confidence, accelerates smoothly, and remains comfortable for long hours on the road. The F-150 platform itself reinforces these strengths through its sturdy chassis, well-balanced suspension tuning, and versatile interior layout. Yet the shifting regulatory environment demonstrates how quickly the standards for engine durability and emissions stability evolve. The first-generation EcoBoost stands as a transitional point between traditional V8 engines and the modern turbo hybrid systems emerging today. Manufacturers are now using stronger alloys, advanced cooling systems, and intricate combustion algorithms to meet tougher rules, indicating how far the industry has progressed. As these developments unfold, the earliest EcoBoost trucks become symbols of an era that moved boldly into turbocharging, but did so before long-term standards were fully defined. They remain capable and respected, yet the tightening regulations underscore how automotive expectations continue to rise as engineers push for durability, cleaner operation, and more advanced thermal management. This moment highlights the tension between innovation and evolving oversight, showing how quickly yesterday's breakthroughs can become today's compliance challenges. In many ways, these trucks illustrate the growing divide between foundational turbo technology and the sophisticated systems emerging in modern powertrains. Understanding this shift sets the stage for the next development in pickup standards, revealing even more complex challenges for the future of American trucks. Those are the 7 trucks causing all the chaos right now. Tell me in the comments, do you think this ban will actually happen? If this helped you stay ahead, hit like, tap subscribe, and smash that bell icon so you don't miss the next leak, update, or rumor. More news is coming fast. Stay ready.